evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Damon Holland from Holland Homes Team, but you already know that, of course. Tonight, we are here to talk about so you want to buy a home with the Homeowners Association. And this is a panel discussion, and we have special guests tonight. It'll be Dana. She is from Next Gen, and also Next Gen is hosting. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and check out all the other videos under Next Gen also. But let's get to the topic. HOAs, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Next slide. The why. For buyers considering an HOA community, the biggest question is this HOA well managed, financially stable, and transparent? That answer often determines whether the community protects property values or creates expensive problems later. So that's the main question. That's the why. You want to know what's going on with the HOA. Are they financially stable? What's going on with them? What are you paying for? That's the biggest thing. What are you paying for and why are you paying for it? Next slide. And we got a lot of questions in and we put them all in different categories. I'm going to let Dana step in and take it on from here.
Okay, thank you, Damon. Yes, for those people that are looking to purchase a home with an HOA, now whether this is your first time buying a home with an HOA or you've bought one some time ago and you don't remember, these are some of the things that you would want to ask. And again, things change. So the homes that I purchased, the oldest home that I purchased 30 years ago was in an HOA, and the laws have changed in my state and in my county. Then I also bought another home. Both of them were new construction, also in an HOA. Then I think I bought a third home that I did not purchase as one of my primary residents, but it was also in an HOA. So purchasing a home and then purchasing a home with an HOA are some very different things that you need to consider. So, as Damon said, he categorized the questions into these five things that you would need to, the types of questions that you would need to know, that you would need to ask. Of course, if you're working with a fantastic person like Damon from Holland's Homes team, they will be working with you, especially when dealing with a homeowners association or an HOA. And of course, one of the things I did want to let you know is that there are different rules, at least in my state, from an HOA to a condominium because they do different things or they allow for certain things. So in the chat or also in the comment section, we'd like to know where you're from. Where are you in the States? What state are you from? Those types of things. So we kind of can get an idea of how to answer some of your questions. Some of the questions we may be able to answer and some we may not. So, sir, go ahead and go forward with the questions.
All right, we want to start out financial questions. Let's talk about current dues. Are they monthly, quarterly, annual, or annually, and what do they cover?
Okay, so if you have a mortgage, in addition to your mortgage, if you are thinking about purchasing a home with an HOA, usually in the description when you're looking to buy the home, it will talk about homeowners association dues or assessment. Those are pretty much one and the same. So you'll see whether you're allowed to do them monthly, quarterly, or annually. But let's say that they allow you to do it monthly, then you can just pay it all up front in one for 1 year if you'd like. They may be quarterly. So in the disclosures, and Damon, please correct me if I'm wrong, um, they usually tell you the amount. It's going to be $100 a month. It's going to be $200 quarterly. It's going to be $700 annually. So this amount you would need to know because this would help you with your budget. In addition to that, know that this amount can change, preferably every year to go with the budget. And sometimes we may have other things, and I think that was one of the questions. So, what do they cover? They cover a couple of things. They cover the day to day of that community, whether it be the management, if you have a clubhouse, it would cover those types of things. If you have um, a dumpster that would cover it, pool operations, those types of things. Those are what those assessments cover.
Dana, your sound went
Addition,
out a little bit.
oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
There it is. Yep.
Okay.
There it is.
Thank you. In addition to your day to day, they also have what they call capital expenses. So that would go, you would have the money go into what we call operations, and that covers the day to day. And then we also, the money from the operations from your dues would also go to what they call a reserve fund, and that handles your capital expenses. For example, the roof on the clubhouse, if you have to redo the pool, if you have to do repaving of common areas, those types of things. So those are what your assessment covers, the cost of doing business to have a HOA with amenities, if you would will. Also tot lots. If you have tot lots, it also takes care of that.
Also, I'm gonna jump in on this topic, on this question also, which is a really good question because even when I'm showing properties, this is one of the questions that I talk to with my clients about all the time is the HOA dues, because that is part of your mortgage and that is something you definitely need to make sure you have a budget for and have room for. Um, Been to some communities where the HOA have priced them out of their monthly expenses, that what they are comfortable with spending, and the HOA comes in and the HOA fee prices them out of what they're comfortable with. So we may not be able to go, may have to find something different or some alternative to that. But HOAs, what they cover, what their prices, the fees, whether it's monthly, quarterly, or annually, this is something that I get into and ask questions about and have questions during showings, even before we get ratified contracts or anything um, close to that. But I definitely talk to this with my clients while we're showing properties, and this is a big consideration um, in choosing the property. Um, you talked about special assessments, financial documents, some of the documents, budgeting documents, and balance sheets. Are those annually or those monthly also?
Okay. Well, if you wanted to see if that HOA was healthy, you could ask for the current budget. And then you can ask for their year-end financial statements. Things kind of fluctuate sometimes from month to month. So when you can ask for the balance sheet and also, again, like I said, the year-end financial statement. And those are what you're going to look at to see if that HOA is healthy. So again, you can go to a community and it'll have all the bells and whistles and everything that you would want. But if they're not financially healthy, that's something that you need to know because as Damon pointed out, that's going to be part of your expenses and you need to know when you're doing the budget if you can afford that.
Absolutely, absolutely. Can you break down what reserve funds are?
Okay, so what reserves funds are, and there are the capital expenses. If you get what they call a reserve study, and for our state, in the state of Maryland, there's a requirement that they do a reserve study every 5 years. And what they do is they look at the life cycle of the items that we have. In this case, it could be over 30 years. So we have a clubhouse. So they look at the life cycle of the clubhouse, the different items that are in the clubhouse, like furniture, the hot water heater, the flooring, and they say, hey, for the flooring, it's going to last you about 15 years. In the 15 years, you might want to take a look at replacing it. You may have a pool. They said, okay, the life cycle of the pool is, let's say, 15 years, but the water pump may be 10. So the reserves is what they call like your emergency for your capital expenses. So if you ask for the reserve study, they'll actually show a breakout of everything that is in that 30-year window, in our case, that you would be having to spend during that period of time. And it allows the HOA to budget because they're not only doing the day to day, they're also doing the large capital expenses. So hopefully I answered the question of that's what a reserve is for. It
Absolutely. Yes,
okay.
absolutely. Homeowner delinquency rate. How does that matter?
Okay, so that's an outstanding question. So even though, let's say that you have 100 homes in your community, and let's say that 10 of them are delinquent, that means that they're still legally obligated to pay, but the expenses are not waiting for them to pay the amount. So sometimes, they have situations where a high delinquency rate would be a burden on those that are not delinquent. So that's why you have to pay attention to what is going on. Is it too high because the people can't afford it, or is it too high because um, are they delinquent because the assessment is too high? Is it um, what type of community are we looking at? So the higher the delinquency rate, the more lenders are kind of shying away from it because they see it as a financial liability. So if the financial institution sees it as a financial liability, that's something that you might want to take a look at as well. So I think, Damon, I'm thinking, is 20% the marker if you're looking at the delinquency rate? Is that you don't want to see anything go above 20%?
Sometimes it depends on the community too, because
Okay.
different communities are different sizes. So it, it it depends on the size of the community also.
Okay. Well, again, that's something I guess you would want to have a conversation with your real estate agent, and I guess your lender will tell you whether that's something they want to take on, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Most lenders, they will, well, some lenders, they will definitely look at that also. Moving right along, let's go to governance and management. Let's talk about how self-managed HOAs versus professional managed HOAs matter.
Okay. I have not seen any self-managed communities because self-managed means it's the homeowners that are doing it, and a lot of times you don't have homeowners that have that skill set versus the professionally managed. Now, with the professionally managed, what you get, of course, you're going to be paying for that, is these companies have a cadre of accountants, attorneys, and other skill sets to manage a community. For example, they have a list of plumbers, preferred plumbers that they can work with that are licensed, that can take care of any plumbing issues in your clubhouse, plumbing issues in your pool. They can take care of grounds maintenance. So that is something that the homeowners don't have to deal with, and insurance and those types of things. So if I were to have a choice, I would prefer the professionally managed as opposed to self-managed. Because again, self-managed means that it's the homeowners that are doing it, and they may not have the skill set or the bandwidth to do it.
Absolutely. I've also see it also new homes community. They mostly start out being professionally managed, and then after so many years or after they finish in that area, they'll turn it over to the actual homeowners in the community. So I've seen it both ways, or some will keep it professionally managed, like you said. Um, what is a good level of regular activity for the board?
Um, one
Is
of the
it one
things,
meeting a month or two meetings a month, like that?
well, it kind of depends on the community and what their needs are. It's now for us, we had a new management company. We just got it changed. And so for us, it was important to have monthly meetings with the homeowners, and we would have some ad hoc meetings as necessary. And the reason that is because usually when it's professionally managed, they usually charge for a monthly meeting. Like if you have monthly meetings, they charge for X amount per monthly meeting. Then if you have an annual meeting, which is a requirement for Maryland. Now, in the state of Maryland, you can have one annual meeting, and that would satisfy the requirement. But it depends on the needs of the community. It depends on what's going on. So it de- I guess that's the answer that I would go with is that monthly meetings is fine because it gives an opportunity for the homeowners to listen to how the board conducts business, how they work with the management company, and how they interact with the homeowners. Now, the other thing that we have is a community meeting, and I think we have that twice a year. And the community meeting, and this is in addition to the annual meeting, the community meeting is where the homeowners get to talk about the things that are on their mind. So it depends on the community.
Okay, good answer, definitely. As far as any pending lawsuits and access to board meetings, how do you how do you get that information, or how do you disperse that information too?
Now, I like I said, right now I am with two HOAs. One of the HOAs, which is the oldest one, it is open to the public to include the press. So anyone can join those meetings. The other one is only for the homeowners. So it depends on the community. If you have the opportunity to listen in to those board meetings, I would highly recommend that because it kind of gives you a flavor about the community and how the board conducts business. Now, with respect to lawsuits, that's very important. Now, keep in mind, there are lawsuits that are, let's see, what's the word I want to use? That are, there are lawsuits and then there are lawsuits. It depends on the lawsuit and what it is. Some of them are, and the word escapes me right now, but some of them may not be actual lawsuit. It may be just someone complaining when they should have
Okay,
done something. So it depends on what the lawsuit is.
okay, gotcha. Next question: how is communication handled with this being a digital world that we're living in right now? Is it are you still putting things in the mail, putting newsletters in the mail, putting issues, not really issues, but communication through the mail, or is everything in a central location where owners can get to it?
Hey, welcome, Hope Mills. Loving it. Welcome. Well, it depends. Now with our state, the it we have it to where it has to be accessible to everyone. So you're right in this digital world. Now we have an older community, so we have a website. We can use newsletters because we're trying to be cost effective, and we have mailings and emails. Now keep in mind the mail does cost and the price of
True.
postage has gone up. So that's one of the considerations that we have. So what we're doing is a combination of everything, but we start with the mail. And those that opt out, and this is in both of my communities. And so if they opt out, then they of course would receive the information digitally. But um we cannot stress communication enough. Please, boards, please make sure you're communicating with the homeowners because a lot of times things can be taken care of when they're communicated and preferably
Hmm.
communicated properly.
Absolutely. That is a very good point. Let's jump into more rules and restrictions, CC&Rs and declarations and bylaws. Give us a quick breakdown on what those are, and I'm gonna jump into right after that too.
Okay, so if you want to know the meat and potatoes, then we have those in the declarations. Then the bylaws pretty much talks about how the board and conducts business. It talks about the management company. It talks about annual meetings. It talks about special meetings. It talks about regular meetings. You've got your rules and regulations, and then you've got your architectural guidelines. And your architectural guidelines are if you want to change your door, if you want to change something on the outside of your property, those types of things.
Putting up a
Because
fence.
one of the things that reason why a lot of people are geared toward the HOA is because they want to maintain and or increase their property value. But if you've got the house next to you looking like who did it and why, then
Hmm.
that kind of reduces your property value. So the
And that's
governing
the good and
documents,
bad that we're talking about. Yeah.
So the governing documents are very important, and you definitely need to know what the rules and regulations are. And now, again, and I know you wanted to, I'll turn it over to you, but there's some certain things you need to pay attention to. You want to pay attention to if there's any parking restrictions, if there are any guest parking, if you have a commercial vehicle. For example, in my community, you cannot park your commercial vehicle in your driveway, or in it has to be parked on the county road. And they talk about street parking. Then we talk about pets. Now, there are county restrictions on the type of pet that you can and cannot have. And I think in one of the other communities, you have to register your pet. And also, there may be a rental restriction about, how many rentals. It may be, you don't know. You got to ask the question. Are you
Hmm.
allowed to have renters? Are you allowed to rent your property? This is very important. If you're buying your house for the first time and it's a house you want to live in, it's also important to find out. Of course, everything can change. If, hey, we've got a rental restriction. So if you have a rental restriction, you have to know that because you don't want to be in violation.
Absolutely, yes. And you hit on a lot of things that I was going to say, because these are the things that, again, as I'm showing properties, I'm taking clients around showing properties, and they say they're interested in this community and that community. Usually, I show up with the CCNRs and restrictions and bylaws so they can see it and read it and understand it before we put in a contract, before we get a ratified contract. Because as you know, once we get that ratified contract, you're locked into it. So I have to make sure that they see and understand all these rules before we submit an offer. Because like you just said, I've seen a lot of them where commercial vehicles can't be parked in the communities. I've seen quiet hours. I've seen restrictions on motorcycles, pets. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot. So HOAs is one of the big things I talk about and discuss as I'm showing properties with different clients.
Yes, and the other thing, I know I talked about rentals, but also the
That's a big one
Airbnbs
too.
and those types of things, those are probably not going to be allowed. But you definitely not want to make sure that you pay attention to those types of things. And also landscaping. I remember I was telling you about the rules and regulations for like paint colors, if
Hmm.
you can have a shed, if you want to put a fence up. These are things that you want to pay attention to when you're looking to buy a home that has an HOA. Now, granted, HOAs can change their position on certain things, but what you don't want to do is you don't want to find yourself in the position of saying, "I did not know," when this information was provided to you at closing or before.
Exactly. And like I say, it's usually before you even get into that contract, before you submit that offer, you need to know these rules and regulations and whether or not you want to be in that community beforehand. Because this is the one of the real sticking points for a lot of communities. Because I get a lot of questions about the HOAs, why this and why that. And like I said, that's the good and bad. That's the good and bad side of HOA because it keeps everybody in a certain line. Keeps, like you said earlier, keeps the property values going good. Keeps everything looking good in the neighborhood. Because you really don't want to be living next to Fred Sanford and somebody got a junkyard right next to you. That kind of disrupts everything in the neighborhood. So HOAs, it's a good and bad. Some people like them, some people don't. But I do understand their job, and they do have a job to do. And the main thing is property values. That's what they look at. So it's a good and bad, but that's what we're here to talk about, the good and bad of it. Um, Architectural guidelines. You did mention that as far as putting fences up, paint, different paint colors, even the front doors. Some front doors can't be painted a certain color. So HOAs in that perspective um, hits everything on the outside of the house. Parking rules. We talked about parking rules. We talked about some not being able to park your work vehicle in your driveways. Some remedies for that, they will let you put a magnet to cover your logo, and some HOAs are good with that, some are not. But that's one of the resolves solutions for that situation. We talked about quiet hours. Some quiet hours are 10 o'clock and more. after nothing after 10 o'clock. But all this comes in the rules, restrictions, and bylaws, which are very important to a lot of HOAs. Short-term rentals, only a percentage of the neighborhood can be Airbnb or rented out. That's another big one also, especially now we're into the Airbnb age. A lot of people want to uh, put their home up for Airbnb once they move or something like that. That's a lot to do with military also, because the military is always in and out. So when they do leave, they want to put that property Airbnb or rent it out. But sometimes only a certain percentage of that community can be rented out. Let's go to property maintenance. Let's talk about some HOA responsibilities versus homeowner responsibilities.
Okay. Well, that kind of depends on the community. So in the communities that I am a part of, I'm responsible for my property. Now, and then we have we call common areas. The HOA is responsible for the common areas. Now, we do have what they call condos or townhouses where some HOAs are responsible. There's some really nice ones I saw in Maryland, but they're responsible for the exterior of the homes and they're responsible for landscaping. Now, in one of my properties, they actually include landscaping and they cut your grass as part of your HOA fee. So that's really cool. So common areas are areas that are not on your property. It could be the woods, it could be a trail, it could be the tot lots, it could be the pool, it could be the clubhouse. Those are all what we consider common areas. And they're also responsible um, if you have snow removal. That's another one. So you definitely need to know what your boundaries are because you need to know what you're responsible for. If you have to cut the grass, you have to know what is your grass and what is the common area. Um, let's see. You need to know if there's any major repairs or capital projects that are planned, whether they're doing any work on the sidewalks, the drainage, any pool repairs. That's important to know because that affects how much money is going to be requested of for that budget. So you need to know if there's any upcoming things. So let's say in 2026 everything's, going great, but in 2027 there's a plan to do all this uptick of work to the tune of 200 and something thousand dollars. Well, that money has to come from somewhere. So these are the things as a new homeowner you have to look at, not only what you're looking at right now or when you're going to buy it in that year, but also any upcoming projected plans. Also, you also want to know how quickly are maintenance requests handled. If you ask for, we had a situation where, let's see, there was a tree that was down. We had some really challenging weather. How quickly is that handled? If is maintenance deferred? Those are important things that you need to know because the longer you wait for something, the more it's going to cost. If you have a common area that needs to have the the roads, let's say pothole repairs, that how soon is that being done? These are the things that you need to know. If you're driving through the community, it looks all good, but the roads are challenged. You need to know that.
Absolutely, that is a perfect answer. Answered all the questions in that area. So let's go right to community and lifestyle amenities. You talked about the clubhouses and pool and gym like that. What are some other amenities and how do they keep the conditioning of those communities up?
Okay. So, I've seen some communities, like you said, had a pool, they had a playground, they had a trail. I've got one that has a gym, clubhouse, golf course. They have security that drives around. They have gate guards in the front, those types of things. So, looking at the amenities, what is your HOA assessments paying for? How well are these amenities maintained? How does the pool furniture look? Those types of things. How's the tot lots looking? Those kinds of things. Is it quiet? Is it family oriented? Do they have social activities and events? And if there's a complaint, how are they handled? You need to know about that. And then speaking of, I was talking about the gate guards and the security patrol. How are security how is security handled? Do they have cameras? Do they have patrol? Is it gated access? And I think, for me, I think the best way, and this is, Damon, since we're military, the best way to find out stuff is just to ask the people. Just go around asking,
Absolutely.
how do you like living here? How long have you lived here? And sometimes some communities they do what they call surveys. Ask for their most recent survey, and if they've ever asked for a survey, that's telling in and of itself.
Absolutely. What are some of the complaint processes?
Well, it depends on what the complaint is. It may be how the management company handled a situation. It could be that the person felt that their request wasn't handled properly or quickly. It could be a complaint of another neighbor. So it depends on the situation. And, the management company, they have a certain set of guidelines that is known to everyone as to how they handle complaints. Then we have our governing documents that talks about how you handle certain issues. We had a situation where um this homeowner has a daycare center, which they're allowed to have that, but the area of the parking was so tight that the people that were picking up their children were actually blocking the driveway of the other
Mm,
homeowners. So the daycare is not a problem. It's the parking to block people in that's the problem. So,
mhm.
you know, this was brought to the management company's attention. So the management company handles it by sending a letter to the business owner to let them know, hey, the problem is not your daycare center. The problem is you have to make sure that your patrons do not obstruct the roadway and do not block in other homeowners. So those are the types of things I'm talking about that I've seen.
Okay, okay. So are these complaints prioritized, or is it kind of more on terms of first come, first serve? I know some of it has to be prioritized, but how is it usually handled like that?
Well, the management company that we have, both of them are accredited, so they have to go through rigorous training, and they have to be knowledgeable about the laws, the upcoming laws, and those types of things. So they actually have a process. I guess they call it a triage of how they handle complaints. And like you said, there are some that are going to take priority over others, even if it came later. So it depends
Hmm.
on the situation and severity. And at this point, I don't think that these management companies have seen anything new. So they kind of know what they're
True,
doing. That's the good news.
true. Good point, true. Resident feedback. What are some of the top dislikes of HOAs and some of the best complaints you've received as far as since you've been on the board?
Okay. Since I've been on the board, okay, to qualify this, July of 2024, the the complaints have mostly been about maintenance in the common areas. And the good news is that we have a grounds maintenance contract. And if there's anything that they're not doing, the contract does provide for what you need to do if something wasn't done. So all the contracts that we do have something, even the management company contract, it does have something in there that if they are not doing what is contractually required, there is a remedy. We just have to use it. That's the biggest challenge. Just have to make sure we use it.
Okay, okay. And next up, next slide, let's jump into some of the red flags.
Okay, now these are some of the red flags that I would look for. And I think you kind of hit on some of them. If there's a whole bunch of homeowners complaints that are not resolved, if there are low reserve funds, and how you know they're low reserve funds is you take the reserve study and you see what the amount they're supposed to have against what they actually have. So if they have a low reserve fund, they're going to have to get that money from somewhere. And sometimes that may require, um, sometimes if you start seeing that they're having frequent special assessments, that's another red flag. And what is a
Mm.
special assessment? Let's say that the I'm not trying to put mouth on anybody, but let's say the roof blows off of a community center and it's not insured. It's going to have to get taken
Mm.
care of some way. So what'll happen is the HOA will have to levy what we call a special assessment. So out of all of the homeowners, they're going to have to pay a certain amount of money to an assessment. This is in addition to their regular assessment. So that's a red flag. And if you do it now, one time is bad enough, but if you're frequently doing it, that's definitely a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
If you have high delinquency rates, now it becomes a serious problem if you're not doing anything to adjudicate it. Some people, I want to say you might start seeing it around 2020 when people were having challenges with employment. You know, if the HOA doesn't have a way to address people who fall on, I want to say, hard times for a short period of time, there are things that the HOA can do. I'm not saying eliminating the eliminating the assessment because we can't do that, but there's ways that we can. For example, I think the management company talked about payment plans. But if the HOA is not offering that, that could contribute to your high delinquency rate. Another red flag, which is a big one for me, is deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance becomes expensive maintenance. The longer you wait, the more it's going to cost. Um, okay, we talked about homeowner complaints. They had to. I think the word I was looking for was valid. Some are valid, some are
Okay.
not.
Mm-hmm.
Poor record keeping, that is a big challenge for me. I'm a big advocate for record keeping. If I'm paying you my money, I need to know where every single penny goes, and then I transfer over to lack of transparency. If you're doing things in the secret, that tells me you're not up to any good. So those are the top. Let me see, how many is that? That's seven. Those are
Mm-hmm.
my top seven red flag things.
Okay,
There may
I
be,
got a
there may be,
question.
you may have some more, but those are my top ones right there.
No, those are perfect. Those are all definitely good ones. I got a question for you. Let's say situational based. Let's say I'm a buyer. I'm getting ready to buy into this community, and I want to know more about the HOA. I want to know about everything you're saying here: the reserve fund, delinquency rate, deferred maintenance. Am I going to be able to get this information from a homeowners association, even though I'm not an owner yet, and I'm looking to purchase a home in that community?
I
How
don't
can I
see
get
what
this information?
I don't see why not. I think that especially if if you're because the person that's buying the home is being responsible, but I don't see why you would not be able to get that information. I don't. Have you ever experienced it?
On this level, no. I have no issues, problem getting the CCNRs and the bylaws and the rules and restrictions and stuff like that. I can definitely get all of that. Um, but as far as reserve funds and special assessments and stuff like that, I haven't asked for them, haven't had to ask for them, I'll put it that way. But this is definitely a good question here now that I can start looking at also.
A lot of people, I'll speak for myself, didn't know to ask for it. And because I was both of my okay, there was only one that was not a new construction, but the other ones were new communities. So so the governing documents and all that good stuff, they I would be able to see those. But I didn't look at I mean, I didn't look at them like I look at them now. So the eye that I had as a new homeowner is very different that I have as a HOA board member and now an HOA officer. I look at things a little bit differently. And I
Okay.
think this is one of the reasons why we're having this panel discussion is because we don't want people to fall into the trap of not knowing these are the things that you can and should ask for.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, definitely. Because another thing I do call HOA associations too, and I do get inside information from different people if their HOA is having issues or in different communities. So I do kind of get inside track on some of them, but I definitely, like I said, I can get the CCNRs, I can get the bylaws, I can get the rules and restrictions and all that stuff. But low reserve funds and stuff like this is something I can dig a little bit deeper into and get more information about, so I can definitely let my clients know, because that's definitely something you need to know as far as transparency or lack thereof, and funds and reserve, how they're being managed. That is all good stuff, definitely.
I think, now I know we're talking about home people that are looking to buy a home with an HOA. But what I would ask is that if you purchase a home, if you decide you want to purchase a home that has an HOA, please be active and be knowledgeable about what's going on, because as I said before, the governing documents that you had when you came on board or when you purchased your home may look very different from the one from 10, 15 years from now, but it's based on what the homeowners want. And you at that point would be a homeowner. So definitely stay active. If you decide to purchase a home in an HOA, we love the amenities, but I would ask that you please be knowledgeable and stay engaged.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good point. And like I said a little bit earlier, I see it all the time where new homes, construction communities, once they're finished building in that area in that community, sometimes they will hand it over to the homeowners, and some people don't know that, or didn't know that, because they're kind of haven't been following along with the HOA community and the minutes and the meetings and stuff like that. But a lot of times, that's what usually happens is once the builder is done in that area, they have all the homes that they were projected to have in that area. Once they're done, maybe a couple years will go by, and they will turn it over to the community. So that's definitely a big one to watch out for too. Next slide.
Are you taking any
Questions?
questions?
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions, please type it in. I do want to let you know this is part one. This is only a part one. We will do this again with HOAs because we had a boatload of questions that we went through tonight. So y'all, everybody asked very good questions, and I think we hit everything. Um, yeah, we did. We did hit everything. But I know there's some more questions about HOAs out there, so you can ask them now, or you can also ask them later. We're going to put the questions in the description below as a review, so you can see what was asked. And again, this is a part one. We're going to do this again also. Danny, you got anything?
No, sir. Just thank you for taking the time to talk to us and for hosting this very valuable live stream. Because again, I don't want anyone walking into an HOA not knowing, like you said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But it can be good, but it's up to you as the
Absolutely.
homeowner.
And I would say the summary to sum up everything we talked about as far as HOAs. HOAs are valuable. They have a job to do, and their job is to protect the community, protect home prices, values, and protect homeowners also. Um, so just make sure you ask questions and make sure the HOA fits the lifestyle that you want, the comfortability that you want, and make sure it's a good fit for you and your family. I'll definitely close with that. One last go around. Any questions from the audience, or Danny, you got any questions left?
No, sir, I don't see any questions in the chat, but of course, feel free to after this broadcast. We welcome all questions. And I think your contact information is in the description as well.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. And again, the channel, Next Gen channel, there are a lot. It's a lot of good information, not only real estate. There are, as far as retirement information, there are mental health videos also. Definitely check out the site, check out the channel, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.